Hey everyone, welcome. Mm, Welcome everyone. So beautiful to be here with you guys. I hope you're doing well. So, I don't know wherever you guys are in the world. By the way, for anyone watching, let me know where you are. I'm curious. I'm back in Poland. I was in London for a week. I just came back and it's raining like a lot. So, it's coming. It's getting colder, and it seems like I will be in Europe this fall and this winter, which I haven't done in quite a few years. So getting used to like, okay, I'll need some proper clothes, and I'll get to see snow, which I think is a positive thing. So yes. Anyway, so lovely to see you guys here. Awesome for joining live or watching the replay. So today's topic for this YouTube live is toxic relationships. Now, this is something I've been sort of talking about here and there in my private groups for men and women. I've been talking about this topic with a lot of my friends because they've been going through this personally. I've had my own experiences in this, and I decided, okay, let's do actually this whole video. Let's do it on that topic because it's really alive for many people. And I think what's just shocking the most is that when we get into those toxic relationships, we're just like, how on earth did that happen to me? Like, how on earth? I am this normal, good person. I have my boundaries. I'm active. I take care of myself. And boom, I just ended up in a toxic relationship. And I didn't even see that coming. So this is the intention for this Facebook live, YouTube live today. So what we talk about is how to free yourself from toxic relationships. So specifically, the things we'll go through is what is a toxic relationship? Because if you've ever been in one and you got out of it, you probably were shocked to realize that, oh my God, like I did not understand that the dynamic I was in was actually toxic. It's like this huge reality check. You're like, shit, seriously, like, oh my God, I did not see it. It's like, it feels like when you get out of a toxic relationship, it literally feels like you were stuck in a cartoon and you lived in a different reality. You just did not register things the way they're actually happening. So we're going to talk about what is the specific dynamic that makes a relationship. We're going to talk about why do we get into those toxic relationships. Now, look, if you are in one or if you've ever been in one, then it's not your fault that the partner is toxic. This is their thing. They need to look at it. However, you have to understand, why did you allow it in the first place? Like, what was it? Because some people will be more prone to becoming victims of that toxic pattern or toxic partners really than others. So we really want to understand it so that you can like stop this from happening again. We're also going to talk about how to spot a toxic partner. So basically, is there anything we can do to protect ourselves so we don't even end up in that relationship? Because, once you're in it, once you're in love, you don't see things the same way. So is there anything that you can look out for? And yes, there is. So people who are toxic, whether intentionally or not, they play certain games. There are certain strategies that they engage in because that's kind of what they learn from childhood, that this is what gives them love. And these games, well, they're really good at those games. However, if you understand the game, then you can spot it. Okay, so that's what we'll talk about. We're also going to talk about moving on from a toxic relationship because this is extra difficult. Any breakup is hard. Moving on is always hard. But if it's a toxic relationship, it literally feels like dealing with the craving, dealing with addiction. Like you have these withdrawal symptoms. You do things that you would never do otherwise. Like, you go and you beg the person to take you back, even though you don't want that. So we're gonna talk about this. This is big. And I'll talk to you about clearing the energy of your partner on all 4 levels, meaning the physical, mental, emotional, and energetic level. And finally, we're going to dive into what you can do to change this pattern. It's change who you attract. I often hear people say like, yeah, but are there like really good partners out there, And the reason why you don't see those good partners is because you're conditioned to see, to notice, to be attracted to a certain person who ends up being toxic to you. So it's like your brain scans good people out and only notices these. So we want to know what to do to basically rewire the brain so that you can actually be attracted and attracting good partners. So we'll talk about all of these 5 different aspects. And yes, I want to start just by saying that, if you've ever been in that situation, we often have these thoughts. It's like, how could it happen to me? Like, how could it happen to me? I'm someone who, I respect myself. I have my good boundaries. Like I'm this like awesome person. You would never think that this could happen to you, because we have this idea that only people with like really low self-esteem get into toxic relationships. Someone who just has no ability to read another human being, or someone who just like allows other people to use them. So it's like, how could it happen to me? And I'm going to show you in this training that it's not that clear, it's not that obvious. And frankly, if you're someone who's very good, very loving, like if you are a great partner, then you will be an amazing target for these toxic people. So I would definitely want you to be able to let go of the guilt and shame that you may be feeling towards yourself for the simple fact that you got into that relationship. And and another thing is, like I mentioned, is that oftentimes we don't even realize we're in a toxic relationship. So it's like when it finally ends, this is when it hits us. When all of the emotions dissolve, that's when you start seeing objectively the dynamic that you were in, realizing that actually that was a bad relationship. Like, you probably thought it was really perfect, and you may have thought that this is like the one, the love of your life. And then when you get out, you start realizing that, wow, they were manipulating me. Like, you realized how unhealthy and abusive that connection felt. And so once again, it's easy to feel like, that I'm silly, guilt towards myself. How could I? If like now it's so obvious that this partner was so toxic and unhealthy to me, and I thought that this is the love of my life, and I wanted to have a family with the person. So once again, we're going to talk about all these dynamics today, so you don't have to worry about them, and also release the guilt. Now, another thing that happens that you may have experienced is that, okay, so, awesome, you now see that this person wasn't good for you, like whether you're in a relationship with them still or you already broke up, and yet none of this makes it easy. Like, even though this person is bad for you, even though you deserve better, and this is not what you want, that doesn't necessarily translate in our ability to walk away. And so once again, we'll talk about all of this because this is super important. And hey, everyone who's live, hi Dan. Dan is saying it's a reason why couples need to do communication counseling. It's very important. Yes, I do honestly believe that communication is the number one skill to learn if you want to be in a good relationship. So thank you for bringing this up. Okay, so let's look at what is a toxic relationship. Like, what is this dynamic that actually is toxic? And the reason why I even want to talk about this is many years ago, I remember reading something about child abuse. And one of the big things when you work with children who were abused in childhood, or adults who were abused in childhood, is that they did not register that the behavior they were exposed to was wrong, because it's the only experience they have. So for them, this is normal. It actually happens quite often that children who were sexually abused, they don't even know that they were abused, because in their reality, this is what happened. That's the only thing they know. And so truth is, when we are in a toxic relationship, if we got into the dynamic, most likely you've never experienced an actual healthy dynamic in a love relationship. So you think that this is normal. And first of all, I want you to realize that these things are not normal. Okay, so that's how I want to talk about what is a toxic relationship, so that you can understand, because maybe right now you are in one and you are not able to even realize that you're in a toxic relationship. And now hopefully you will, if that's the case. So toxic relationship is a relationship where it comes at the expense of one partner. So meaning that one partner is feeling great, is thriving, possibly gets their needs met, but not the other one. So it's like this one person is getting everything they need at the expense of the other person. So this is abusive. Toxic relationships are abusive. And I know that a lot of people feel really Like they don't want to use the word abuse, because when we say abuse, we think usually of like people being raped or hit physically, tortured, right? Like when we say abuse, we really think of something super intense. But the thing is that it doesn't have to be so intense or so obvious to still be abusive. So toxic relationships are abusive. And you have to start being okay saying this, like, I am being abused by my partner. I remember when I got out of a toxic relationship and I was doing the inner child work, which we'll talk about. And when I would imagine my little girl and then bring this partner, at this time, my former partner, into this visualization, my inner girl was running away, terrified of him. That's what I realized, that actually he was abusive. That was an abusive relationship, because a part of me feels terrified of this person, of this man. So being, again, just because you admit that you are being abused by your partner, or that your partner is abusive, that the relationship is abusive, doesn't mean that you're a bad person, doesn't mean that you have no self-respect. It just means that this is abusive. It's just stating the fact so that you can change it. Now, in that dynamic, this partner who is toxic and abusive, they play games. So they manipulate you. And you have to understand that we all play games. Okay, this is how we get our needs met in life. So we play different games. But usually in that dynamic, this person will be really strongly engaged in those games. And the other person, you'll still, do your own little manipulation, but it's not to the same extent. So there's lots and lots of games, lots of manipulation. And what happens is that the person who's being manipulated gets trapped without realizing that person falls a victim to this dynamic, because we're often unable to realize what's happening. And this is why these toxic people, including narcissists, are so effective at what they do. Like all their dynamics are so good, we can say, like they're really experts at doing this, because you have to understand that the person who's toxic, this is what they learned in childhood. That was the only way for them to get their needs met, to receive love. So they became experts by practicing those games and those manipulation strategies. So they've been using it their whole life. And they may be aware of the fact that they're doing this, or they may be not, but in any case, they're really masters at those games. So if you're not picking on those games right away, it doesn't say anything bad about you. It just says that you didn't have to engage in those games. So you're not familiar that someone may be trying to get their needs met in such an unhealthy way. Another aspect of those toxic relationships is that there's very strong chemistry, very strong polarization. So there's huge sex drive. Like you just feel like you want to fuck all the time. And this may be a bit challenging to hear, because if you're someone who has a really strong sexual energy, and if you value sex a lot, and maybe this is one of the things that you thought that really made this relationship special, because you're like, wow, we really meet each other sexually. I know this may be hard to hear, that strong sexual desire may be actually a sign that this is a toxic relationship. I'll speak more about why this happens, but this actually is the case. Toxicity creates lots of chemistry. Think about it. If you took chemistry class, it's like, lots of explosions, right? The more substances we put together, right? The explosion is bigger. So the more toxic the combination is, the bigger the explosion. So we have to keep that in mind. The polarization between masculine and feminine is going to be very strong. Why? Because if the person is abusing you, then they're in the dominating role and you're in the submissive. And it's the exact same dynamic, the exact same polarity that brings up sexual desire. Now, again, it doesn't mean that healthy relationships do not have polarization and chemistry and sexual desire. It's not to say this. It's just to tell you that if there's this incredible intense chemistry, that's a red flag. Another aspect is that these relationships are just intense in general. So they're intense sexually, but they're intense emotionally as well. So the highs are very high and the lows are very low. And that gives you the thrill, but it also is what makes you addicted to that relationship. And the thing is that those highs and lows, that dynamic, that roller coaster that you're experiencing, it's actually really exhausting. So your nervous system will be always activated, flight or fight mode. And you'll notice that after a while, you just feel tired. You kind of lose this sense of lightness in life, because you're always tense. You're always kind of, okay, are we good now? Are we not? Am I fighting with you, or are we making love and do we love each other right now? So it's really actually unhealthy and very destructive. And you have to understand that those dynamics, they do not feel safe. So you are not safe emotionally in that relationship. This flight or fight mode means that you are not safe. And we have to keep this in mind, because this is very important, because when you're not feeling safe, you actually can experience re-traumatization of your own wounds. Another aspect of these relationships is that it's almost impossible for you to keep your boundaries. So it's kind of, no matter how bad the partner is, no matter what they do, you just come back. It's like you want to walk away, and yet you cannot. It's because they apologize, and like they did something bad, but they turn into those perfect partners. They're so nice, so loving. They apologize, and you believe them. You believe them because you're holding on to the hope, to that illusion that they pulled you in. Like, that created this incredible illusion of this relationship, and we'll talk about it. And that's called love bombing. So they pulled you into this illusion, and you don't want to let it go. You still hope this will happen. So you keep receiving their apologies, and you keep forgiving them. But the thing is that if you really look at it, those apologies, they don't come with the actual change, right? So the partner may say, I'm sorry, I want to be better, like a better man, a better woman for you. I really want to change. But then if you're really observing like the pattern of your relationship, there has been no change, because that's one of the forms of manipulating you, is by making promises so that you hold on to the hope that they're creating, but they have no intention of actually changing. Like I mentioned, it's very one-sided. So it's about the needs of one partner only, and they're really good at manipulating you to get what they need. So basically, I remember my experience was the feeling that if I ever behave the way that my partner was behaving, right, we would break up right away. And he said this, yes, because they're in a relationship with you for as long as they can take from you. So as long as their needs are being met. If you start standing up for yourself and saying no, they may actually walk away. So you know how we stay in those relationships because we don't want to lose them. That fear is legit, because when you start standing up for yourself and not giving them everything they want, they may indeed walk away, because now they're not getting their needs met. And these people, they don't understand how to compromise. They don't know how to share. They're very selfish, and the relationship is all about them. In their mind, it is all about them. So whether, again, consciously or not, they have learned to use other people to get their needs met. And so if you're stuck in this relationship, you'll notice that if at any point you try to now take care of your own needs, suddenly it's so easy for them to move on. Despite all the big declarations, they can leave you like this and move on to another person. So yeah, this is unfortunately true. But these relationships, these are not partnerships. There's no equality. There's really strong power games, and the person who's toxic, like, they're in the power. They've created the dynamic where they're the ones dominating the relationship. And now, another really crazy thing about those relationships is that actually when you're in them, they seem perfect. It looks like this is true love, because it starts so great. Like I said, we'll talk about love bombing. They feel amazing. There are all these intense emotions, this great sex drive. And it's like, oh my God, I cannot believe that I found something so amazing, because it like hits you right away. But here's the thing. That's not actually love. This is obsession. And if you've never experienced true love, and we'll talk about it, you will be confusing obsession with love. So basically, no, this is not a perfect relationship. It's a toxic relationship. And going through this switch, like when you finally realize that, oh my God, that was not perfect. He or she is not the love of my life. I do not want to start a family with them. I do not want to grow old with them, because this is actually toxic. What I want is get out of this relationship and like never see this person again. This realization is very painful, but it's also very empowering, because you realize that you bonded based on your trauma, based on your wound. It's not the higher self. It's not the conscious self that chose that partner. It's the wounded part of you. Okay. So now let's talk about why do we get into toxic relationships? So, like I mentioned, um, you're not taking responsibility for their behavior. If they're being toxic and abusive, this is on them. However, you do want to take responsibility for allowing such a person into your life. So why did you, like, were you even attracted to this person? Why did you bring them into your life? Why did you stay in this relationship? Like, you want to own that, because once you do, then you can change it. So, like I said, what you have to understand is that you did not choose this relationship consciously. Okay, so when you, for example, if I was to ask you now, what kind of relationship do you want? What kind of a partner do you want? You'll be able to tell me a lot of things. And those things will come from your conscious mind, like this adult part of you, the mature you, the higher self that knows exactly what's best for you. So this is not the part of you that chose that toxic partner. The part of you that chose this toxic partner is what we call the inner child. So it's what we call a trauma bonding, meaning that it's my trauma from childhood, my wounds that recognize this partner. And it's my wounded part that decided that this is the best partner for me. And I'll speak about this dynamic in a second. First, I want to talk to you a little bit about what is inner child, because we use this term so often, but a lot of people don't actually understand what is inner child. So imagine, let's say, you're 2 years old and you can hear your parents argue and your father say to your mom, I never wanted that child. So you overhear it. The 2-year-old feels unwanted. Now, that 2-year-old who feels unwanted, who heard that his father or her father didn't want them, that 2-year-old is inside of you. They live inside of you. Then let's say, you keep going through your life and you're 6 years old and you're with your mom in a shop and you get lost. So for like a minute or two, you cannot see your mom. That triggers the fear of being abandoned. Now that 6-year-old with the fear of abandonment lives inside of you. So you have all of these different parts, these different, basically it's like when you experience something painful in childhood, it like that memory gets frozen and stuck in your body. And all of these parts collectively, that's what we call an inner child. So it's actually multiple different personalities, multiple different experiences, multiple different pains and traumas. Together, that is your inner child. So your inner child is this big part of you that carries all the wounds, all the traumas, and all the limiting beliefs. And it was your inner child that attracted that toxic partner. I'm just seeing Dev Sanjay says, many choose partners for lust, not love. That is reason for toxic relationships. Absolutely, exactly. Because we feel this strong chemistry, we think this is it. And I'll speak about this more, exactly about this dynamic as well, because we need to change that. So thank you for bringing this up. Okay, so now why did your inner child decide that that toxic person is the best partner ever? So see, the inner child in us, it is trying to replay the situation that it lived, because it hopes that this time it will get to resolve the trauma, it will get it right. So it's scanning the environment for people who resemble the oppressor from the childhood. Oppressor meaning someone who caused that child pain, meaning mostly our parents, right, or our caregivers. So the child only knows whatever it experienced in childhood. So it looks for the things that are familiar, because that's the only thing they know. And they're hoping that, okay, so let's say if as a child you didn't feel safe, you didn't feel safe maybe emotionally because there are a lot of arguments in your household. So now your inner child is scanning for partners who will not make you feel safe, because that's the only reality they know. We only see what we know. If you don't know something, just you don't even notice that. And what happens is that the inner child really believes that this time they're gonna get it right. So let's replay the same situation, and now I'm gonna be good enough to receive love and feel safe. So, when we don't receive affection as children, we usually conclude that it's because we are not worthy of love, that there's something wrong with me. And so this inner child in you believes that now, if it only does something better, now it's going to receive love and affection. So this is why when the inner child picks a partner, then we start pleasing our partner because we're trying to win their love. That's when we start sacrificing ourselves, giving our power, and get caught in this dynamic of a toxic relationship, because the inner child, it's like, I wasn't worthy of love before, but I'm going to do so much better. Now I'm going to be a good boy, a good girl, and I will receive the love. So it's basically self-abandonment to receive affection from the partner. So that's the dynamic. Now, of course, we experience variety of different traumas and wounds as a child, different levels, different varieties, but we can kind of group it all together. Meaning, if you didn't receive enough affection from your caregivers, which frankly is the case for most of us, right? So if that's the case, right? So in some way, our caregiver, our parent, wasn't available for us emotionally, then we will be attracting unavailable people. That may mean people who are emotionally unavailable, like they just don't have the emotional maturity. Maybe people who don't make enough money, so they're actually like physically they're not safe. They won't be able to provide for you. They won't be available to take care of you and your family. Or people who are already in a relationship, right? You may find yourself, you're attracted to married men or women, or people who haven't moved on yet from other relationship. That's another crazy situation. When you meet someone and like they still like miss their previous partner, and you get into the relationship with them. Like if you think about it, it's pretty crazy because clearly they're not available, and yet we will go for them because we are attracted to unavailable people. But what ends up happening is that as long as we do that, we keep repeating the same painful pattern over and over again, right? Because we don't even realize of this dynamic from the inner child that attracts those people. Now, at the core of all of this really lies self-worth, or in fact, lack of self-worth, which is exactly what the inner child believes to be the case, right? I wasn't good enough to deserve affection from my parents, right? And so if you truly believe that you're not good enough to be in a healthy, loving relationship, then you'll be getting yourself in those toxic relationships because deep inside you believe that this is all that you deserve, Okay, so now, like I mentioned, one of the interesting things regarding these relationships is that they seem perfect. Like you think that this partner is amazing. It's the love of your life. Like I was definitely there. So if you've been in this relationship, you probably recognize it, right? That it felt incredible. You maybe thought that, oh my God, I found the one. This is my soulmate. Now, why we think that is because, again, as a child, our caregivers, they're like gods to us, right? Like we fully depend on them. So we turn our mother or father into the God figure. So we like put them on the pedestal and everything they do is perfect and we're going to do everything that they ask us for. And so then we repeat the same pattern in the adult life, right? If it's the inner child that is still attracting those toxic partners, we start treating the partner like God. Okay? It's like, oh my God, whatever you say is perfect. I'll do whatever you tell me to do. And because we turn them into God, this is why we think they're perfect. It's not because they're perfect. By the way, no one is perfect. But this is why it's even more difficult for us to spot their toxicity and their manipulation, because God would never do this to us. We should just follow God. So this is another thing really to be aware of. And you have to understand also that, our brain, the way that human brain works, we are unable to pick all the information. This is why we fall into stereotypes. This is why we make assumptions, because there's way too much information in the outside environment for us to be able to consciously register all of this. So what happens is that if the only thing we know is this toxicity or emotional unavailability, then this is the only thing that the brain will look at, and these are the only potential partners you will notice. But also within that relationship, like your brain will literally be ignoring the red flags. Like you will not be registering them, because remember, to your inner child, that's the only reality that it knows. It is trying really hard to be perfect for them. And because now this partner is like God for me. So my brain is literally unable to pick on the toxicity, unable to pick those red flags. And this is why we so easily forgive a toxic partner. Now, all of this, and this is what someone mentioned in the comments, all of this actually comes down to the fact that if you have this pattern of attracting toxic relationships, it comes down to the feeling of scarcity around love. So if you didn't receive enough love, you don't understand that love is omnipresent and that you have always access to love. So you live in a scarcity mindset around love. And look, like I said it before, most of us do, okay? So think about it. If you're really hungry, right, you're gonna eat whatever you find. And if you're starving, you're just gonna get any food, no matter how bad it may be for you. So it's like you have no ability to filter if something serves you or not. And the same happens with love. So if you have the scarcity around love, if you haven't experienced true love, then you meet someone and they fall in love with you and they're almost like obsessed with you. They're like, just, whoa, my God, you're so amazing, right? So you're like, whoa, oh my God, someone loves me. Okay, I'm in. And you don't even give yourself a chance to analyze consciously whether that person is actually good for you or not, right? So what someone commented, it's like we get into relationships for lust and not love, because we're just so amazed that someone chooses us, because this is something we didn't experience in childhood. We were not chosen. So now someone chooses us, we get so excited about it that we're willing to let go of any red flags. Because, you know, oftentimes when we're in those toxic relationships, we feel like this is the best I can get. So I'm willing to sacrifice, I'm willing to go through the pain because I'm being loved in return, okay? So now how can you spot a toxic partner? Like, what can we do to help us actually be more aware of these dynamics? Like, now you understand how this dynamic plays out in you, why you may potentially attract that. But now, how can you spot it in a partner? Like, how can you be vigilant and be able to say, oh, wait, okay, even if I feel these emotions and chemistry, this is like, I know this will not be good for me. I'm out before I fall in love, before there's all the emotions involved in it. So like I said, these people play games, and they're really, really good at those games because they've been playing them successfully their whole life. That's what they learned as kids. That was the only way for them to get their needs met and to receive affection and validation. So they've been doing this their whole life, okay? So that's the only thing they know. And by the way, I do want to mention that we have toxic people who play those games consciously, like they consciously use other people. But really, most of these toxic people, they're not even aware that they are toxic. They're not aware that they're playing these games. They're not aware that they use the person. Like when they meet you and fall in love with you and actually get obsessed about you, they literally believe that you're this perfect partner. So these are people who are so deeply wounded and scared to look at themselves. Like they're not able to actually look at their own patterns, face their own pain. So, you know, if someone has these toxic tendencies, like, of course you can heal it. Of course you can change it. But it requires them to be willing to look at their own shadow. And a lot of these people, they're not. A lot of these people created this elaborate way of behaving in relationships and connecting so that they never have to look at the pain inside, which is, again, the pain of feeling unworthy of love. Because it's way easy to manipulate others to get what they need, instead of actually looking at the fact that, hey, deep inside I feel I'm unworthy of that, so that if I just ask for this, I wouldn't receive that. So I need to steal it from other people by using them. So what are those strategies? How can you spot them? So this is what I mentioned before. It's called love bombing. Love bombing is basically when they just bomb you with love and affection. So they will seem from the beginning like these perfect partners. Like they will be taking care of your needs. It will feel amazing. Like you will feel so loved. You will feel so accepted, so chosen. They may like make these huge declarations, like, you know, say, oh my God, I never met anyone like you. You're like this perfect woman or perfect man. It's like you're made to order for me. I love your body. You're the sexiest person I've ever been with. It's like you bring everything I ever wanted. Like all of these incredible declarations that we would love to hear. And goodness, we'd love to believe in. So that's love bombing. Like they just seem this perfect partner. But here's the thing: if it feels too good to be true, it probably is, unfortunately. So what's happening is that this love bombing process is very intense and it goes really fast. And so you actually don't have time for your conscious mind to register what's happening. Because all is happening is this: your inner child is receiving all the affection that it always wanted. So the inner child thinks like, oh my God, I'm getting it right. Okay, so this is the right person because now I'm getting all the affection from them. So the inner child is engaged. And the conscious mind doesn't get a chance to actually say that, hey, that just doesn't feel right. Something doesn't feel right. Maybe we should slow down. You have to remember, like I mentioned, no one is perfect. So if that partner feels perfect to you, that's a red flag. If your partner says that you are perfect, that's the red flag as well, because they're clearly creating this obsessive idea of who you are, which is not rooted in reality. So you really have to slow down at the beginning of dating to be able to just analyze, use your mind, use your mind. Does it make sense? Do you like all of these dynamics? And by the way, this is already something to observe. So they will want to move really fast. Okay, like these are people who like fall in love super fast. They think, oh my God, this is it. Like toxic people. By the way, toxic people do not know how to be single. So if you see that someone moves from one person to another, that's a huge red flag that, okay, these people don't know how to be on their own. They don't know how to be single because they don't know how to offer affection to themselves. They only know how to get it from other people. Huge red flag, right? So when you start, so they want to move really fast. They'll be like, oh, you're the perfect person. And then like this, you're not the perfect person anymore because they just met someone else who now is perfect, right? So this dynamic will be very common for these people. So when you start slowing things down, they'll be like off their game. This is not what they're used to, right? Because they go all the way in really fast. So when you slow down, actually observe what's happening. Can they slow down? Or is this causing them anxiety? Because this is already when you get to start seeing their true colors. They may become really manipulative and mean and abusive in a quite obvious way because you're not playing their game. Now, another thing you want to pay attention to is how do they react to your no? When you say you don't want something, like, do they honor it? Do they take it? Or do they challenge it? So with toxic people, very often they disguise their disrespect for your boundaries as caring. So for example, you may say that, hey, I don't know, I just want to go, maybe I'm not feeling very well, so I would like to go see my girlfriend and just get some support from her. And the partner would say like, oh, if you're not feeling good, stay home with me, I'll take care of you, right? And so they're basically like, you said something you wanted, they didn't take it, they didn't honor what you expressed, they want you to do something else, and they're saying this like, oh, this will be better for you, trust me, or like, I know what's best for you. So it feels like caring, but it's actually manipulation. So yeah, this is something really you gotta look at. Like if you say that you don't want to do something, like they say, okay, I honor what you say, I respect what you're saying, go and do what you want, instead of trying to actually change that and impose their idea by saying, oh, I just care about you, it's for your best interest, and in general, also look whether they can welcome your opposite views on something. So can you have different political views? Can you have different views on like some of your friends? Because toxic people will be very threatened by you having any other different opinion. So if that happens, if you start voicing something that is not what they think, they can get and start bullying you. They can like attack you in some way. They can try to change your mind because you need to agree. Remember, you need to agree to everything with them because that's the strategy that they're playing. Another thing to look at that can help you is once you've been together for like a few weeks or a few months, start observing. Like, it's normal that we adapt to our partner, that like, we have a different lifestyle as single people. And then when we come together, we let go of some things. We start doing new things because now we do them with the partner. But it needs to be mutual. So just observe. who has adapted to whom? Was it that you adapted to them, but have they adapted to you? Have they changed anything in their life to be with you? Because oftentimes what you will notice is that with toxic people, there's absolutely no adaptation from their side. It's you who's now flexible, right, to be with them, but they're not willing to do the same. Another thing I mentioned, strong chemistry. If there's incredibly strong sexual chemistry from the beginning, that is actually a sign that, okay, this is toxic. There's a lot of drama. And also check with their exes. Like, it's really good to speak to people's ex-partners, because one of the two things may happen. Like, if your current partner who's toxic, if they say really bad things about their partners, like, oh, she was all crazy, like, goodness, like, if it's just negative, red flag. But also if it's all positive, if they'll be like, oh yes, all of my partners were amazing, that's also a red flag. Because remember, no one is fully bad or fully good. We are like neutral, objective. You want them to be objective about their partners. It's okay to be like angry about some things that their exes did, but also they need to notice the good, right? So you want that. So see how they talk about their exes. And you can also, if there is a chance, just speak to the exes, because I've had this happen to me. I'll be honest with you. I was dating this guy, and his ex-partner, who was right before me, she said that, like, wow, I'm really happy to see you guys together, because with me, he was unable to go deep into intimacy. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting, because we don't seem to have that issue. Well, it did become an issue, because what happened is that at the beginning, we were in a honeymoon period, and he was opening up. But once you dive deeper, and now is the time when, like, the shadows can come up. This is when he couldn't be intimate, and that's when he started pulling away. So whatever this woman said actually turned out to be true for me as well. So do not ignore the feedback from the exes. And by the way, guys, I like just a few days ago, I posted a video on my YouTube channel. Do not ignore these 7 red flags. And these are quite unique red flags. It's not something that people talk about often. So go ahead and like, just after this video, go ahead and check my YouTube channel and watch this video as well, because it will help you also spot some of these dynamics. Okay, so now I want to talk about how we can move on from a toxic relationship, right? And like I mentioned at the beginning, moving on is always difficult, but if it's a toxic relationship, it's like extra difficult, because it impacts your brain chemistry. Like, it's like gambling or drinking or drugs. It's just this toxic pattern that when we want to move on from this relationship, from this partner, it literally feels like rehab. It's like you have this craving. And so even though you're consciously aware that this person is not good for you, right, it's still really hard to walk away. So it's very important that we clear the energy on all 4 levels. And this is the mental, energy, emotional, and physical level, okay? So how can you do it? On the mental level, the way we release the energy of the former partner is by actually consciously looking at this relationship for what it was and for what it wasn't. So like I said, your inner child probably made you believe that it's a perfect connection and a perfect partner. It was not. And just look, just objectively speaking, no person is perfect, no relationship is perfect, right? So I want you to actually start writing down all the reasons why this relationship was not good, all the reasons why this partner wasn't good. Like, what were the bad things about this relationship and this connection with this person? So start writing these things down, and then look at this list and keep reading it so that you suddenly start becoming aware that no, it was not perfect. So mentally, you'll be able to release them. At the level of energy, so what happens is that when we're together, our energies blend, and then you actually carry pieces of this relationship, of this person, inside of your body, and the other partner will have the same. So we all have these energy cords, and like we feel them still. So the way to let go of the energy of the partner is, I find that the elements of fire and water are the most effective. So with fire, what you can do is a fire ceremony. So you can write down name of your partner on a piece of paper. And you can also write more about this relationship and any specific patterns that were very unhealthy for you. You can write it all on this piece of paper, and then you burn it in a ritualistic space, meaning that like you actually visualize all of these energies, and you feel them in your body, and then you kind of send all of this energy that you may be still holding, you send it into this piece of paper, right? And you can even say it out loud. Any leftover pieces of his soul or her soul, of their energy, any cords, I now send it into this paper. And then you offer it to the fire, allowing the fire to burn that energy, and watch while this piece of paper burns. And you can repeat that ceremony multiple times, by the way, but it's really, really good to work with this. And with water, what you can do is water basically purifies you. So you can take a shower and just imagine that the water like washes off their energy. You can take a bath, and again, just being in the water, and imagine that the water is pulling all of this energy, and then stay in the bath, take the water out, like let the water go out, and stay and watch the water like sink out. And it's even better if you can add salt to the water. Okay, if you like just a glass of water, like salt basically has these properties of cleansing the energy. Or you can do like the salt scrub, when you're in a bath. So yeah, all of these things with water and fire are really beautiful. If you're by the sea, go and swim in the sea and the ocean, because it's a salty water. So once again, like stay for about like half an hour and let the energy pull the energy out of you. And once again, repeat this multiple times if needed. Now, emotional level. So when it comes to emotional level, you're still going to have memories and emotions associated with this person. So what you want to do, first of all, if there's any time you want to cry and you want to feel the sadness, let yourself feel those emotions. Okay, that's how we move through the emotional level. But also what I want you to do is to shake. So you want to shake your body because that releases the emotions. And that's actually very connected to the physical level. So on a physical level, the way you can work with releasing their energy is exactly like move the body, sweat the body. So go to the gym, go running, like cardio will be really good. Do things like saunas, like go into the sauna and sweat. And anytime you do anything like this, bring the intention that you're releasing the energy from the body. Any practices of purging. So whether you maybe sit with ayahuasca or you do kambo, or you have practices, what's called vamana dauti, when you drink about a liter or liter and a half of warm water first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, and then you make yourself, you put the fingers in to kind of, for the gut reflex to then purge all of this water out. That's another awesome practice that you can do to kind of just visualize you're purging the energy of your partner. You can go for massages or massage yourself, but again, imagining that with these strokes, you're getting the energy out of your body, okay? And of course, on a physical level, it means also no contact, just keeping distant. And I know at the beginning, it may feel super painful to just cut it all. So maybe you need a bit of time, but eventually you really want to cut that person out of your life. And you may realize that even though you may be friends with some of your exes, you may realize that actually for that specific person, it's better to just not be in touch at all. To just kind of get them out of your life, because if they're unhealthy, that's the best thing you can do. Think about it. If we, for example, talk about alcoholics, when you deal with the addiction to alcohol, what do? You just never get the drink again. You don't have alcohol in your house, right? Because this is not good for you. So this is kind of the same here. Why would you put why would you keep someone so negative in your life? So before I move to the next part, the last part, which is changing the pattern, I just want to check because we have a couple of comments. So Dev Sanjay says, some fall in bad habits after breakups. How to overcome this? Okay, I'll speak about it now when we talk about changing the pattern. And then Louise says, do you believe it's possible to turn a toxic relationship to a healthy one? Yes, I believe everything can be changed. I believe we can work on everything. But it requires, especially the toxic person, to be willing to do the work. And unfortunately, my experience is that these people usually are not. It's such a deep trauma for these people. They got so deeply hurt, they're like running away. Like they're just, basically these people are running away from themselves. And so, it's like, people won't change for you. Like your partner will not change for you. They will not face their toxicity for you. They can only do it for themselves. So they need to get to the place of desperation of like, enough is enough, this pattern has cost me too much, so that they're willing to look at this and change this. But this has to come from them. Okay, anytime we have any negative habits and patterns, any change has to come from within. That's just super important. So I know a lot of people stay in toxic relationship because they feel that, oh, I am going to change my partner. And remember, that actually will never happen. This is part of their game, because they keep promising you and telling you that they will change, and then they don't. Or they change just a little bit to give you hope, but it's not the change that you need from them. So keep in mind that if that's the dynamic, if the partner says like, I recognize my patterns, I want to change, please help me, notice that this may be part of the game actually of manipulating you without the proper intention of doing that. Okay, so let's talk about now what can you do to change this pattern, and Dev, that will also answer your question about these negative habits that we fall into after the breakup. So like with any negative pattern or any addiction, you have to be aware of the problem, that there's something to work on, and you have to own it. You have to own the fact that you attracted the person and you allowed for that. Okay, so like I said, there is a reason why that happened. You do not take responsibility for them, but you do have to take responsibility for yourself. And the thing is that everything we do in our life, we do it because it gives us something. We gain something from that. Okay, and I know this may be hard to feel like, wait, what am I gaining from a toxic relationship? You are gaining something. Remember when I spoke about the pattern of the inner child, like that it's trying to now get it right? That's what you're getting. So you have to be really aware that there is a benefit from being in this toxic relationship, and you have to understand what that benefit is, so that you can actually provide those things to yourself in a healthier way. So the first thing that you want to be doing is the inner child work. And that's really the core. And I would say, in my experience of looking at these patterns, this is the most important thing to do. Nothing beats the inner child work. Nothing. Literally nothing. Now, so what does it mean to do inner child work? It means to every now and then throughout the day, you close your eyes, you place your hands on your heart, and you go within. So this can be a meditation. This can be just going into nature to kind of come to your balance, right? You go within and you connect. You see the inner girl or the inner boy that's inside of you. And you observe them. Because probably at the beginning, they will be scared, they will be alone, they will not want to talk to you because you've abandoned them your whole life. You're trying to build a relationship now. So you're seeing this inner child, and you see if you can approach them and start asking questions like, hey, what are you doing? Would you like to show me? Or what is the story that you have? And just start reaching out to that inner child like you would to any other child. And see what they reply. See if they want to talk to you, if they want to play with you. Oftentimes when you start this work, you'll notice that the child doesn't want to have anything to do with you because they're afraid of you because you didn't take care of it until now. So what you may, and it's really intuitive because your inner child is you. So you will know best how to interact with them. But you can try things like, hey, so I understand you want to be alone. I just have this candy here. Would you like some? Or I have this toy. Would you like this toy? And you could play with this. So you're really gentle and slow in approaching your inner child. But eventually, your inner child will start talking to you and will express to you all the needs that it has. And usually what the child will need is to be held, is for you to play with it, to hold it. For me, for example, one of the common visions I get is that when I connect my inner girl, she just wants to sleep in peace and quiet. So I visualize myself lying on a sofa and this newborn baby, because then I see her as a newborn baby, just sleeping next to me in peace and quiet, which probably means that when I was a little baby, there was all of these arguments and I just was awakened a lot by shouting in my household. So I just want to be able to sleep in peace and quiet. And that's the need of my inner child. So you start building the relationship with your inner child to understand what it needs. And then you start offering it in your visualization. So in your mind, when you connect to the inner child, basically you start giving the inner child everything that it wants. And you'll notice that makes you less needy and actually less prone to getting into a toxic relationship. Because remember, it's the neediness of the inner child that attracted this toxic partner. So when the child is taken care of, then you can consciously choose your partner. And then when you also start realizing what those needs are in general, because we can provide ourselves those needs internally with this inner child work, but also externally. And so you can start thinking of like healthier external ways to meet those needs. If, for example, you feel like, even if, right, you love the thrill that you had with this partner, you like these ups and downs, and you realize that you want some excitement, you don't want a boring relationship. Also, does it mean a partner who's gonna like emotionally abuse you? Or what if you had a healthy relationship, but within this relationship you'll be like, I don't know, go and do snowboarding or jet ski, like you're gonna get the excitement from like a healthy activity, right? So that's what you really want to go through. And then another thing you want to do, and this is especially when you're going through the breakup, when there's still emotions coming up, anytime you feel pain, I want you to go into the pain. So if you start being really angry at your ex, that means that you're not willing to sit with your pain. So try to notice what's under the anger. So you sit in a meditation, when you connect to yourself, and just try to see what's under the anger, and then connect to the pain, and then talk to the pain. Like connect to the pain and ask the pain, what message do you have for me? What do you want me to see or understand? I'll tell you from my processes, the big message I was getting is that, I was with this man who would say like, I'm the love of his life, I'm his perfect woman. And he left me like this for another person. Like he met someone, the next day we broke up. So it was like, I felt so not chosen. I was literally like I was left for a woman who's 21-year-old that he just met a day before. And I was like, how can you compare what we had when we wanted to have a family for that, right? So I was like, I was angry because I'm like, how could you not choose me anymore? How could you unchoose me like this? It was causing me a lot of anger and pain. So I would sit with this, and I would sit with this pain of being left and abandoned and let go of so easily, right? And I'm like, okay, pain, what do you want to show me? What are you trying to tell me? And the message is how easy I unchoose myself. Because if you think about it, in the toxic relationship, right, I kept abandoning myself for him because I fell exactly into this dynamic. Sacrifice myself. It's all about him. Let's try to, because he is God, let me try to please him in all the ways that I can. So look how easy it was for me to unchoose myself, to let go of me for him. Like if I am upset that he left me for 21-year-old, how can you like compare me and her, right? How could you? Then how could I abandon myself for him? Or he's this toxic person, right? So you're gonna get a lot of insights from this process, because you have to understand that these people come to our lives to teach us something. These are incredible teachers, painful lessons, but amazing lessons. And so you need to make sure that you complete those lessons. This is when you'll be able to move on. So this is how we get to know, what is my lesson? My lesson was stop unchoosing yourself, stop abandoning yourself for other people. Start honoring your own needs. Like your needs are important. Yes, of course, take care of other people, but don't do it at the expense of your own needs, right? I got a message to step up. All the places where I would still turn into a little girl, a princess, hoping that a man is going to save me. No. I got to do it all for myself. I was reminded how important it is for me to be connected to my body, my sensuality, because I was in a relationship where that wasn't welcome, and I was willing to sacrifice that. So my life force stopped flowing. It impacted my work, my health, everything. Again, a lesson. No. That's like who I am. I'm not willing to let that go and sacrifice that. So there's this series of lessons, and I've been going through months of that, because once you start really opening up yourself for what is there for me to learn, then it's like, it's amazing what you will discover. And it's when you complete the lessons, this is when you're like, oh wow, I'm ready to move on. It's like, I'm ready to release that person, because now I understand why they came to my life. And look, something to really understand is that it is a process. Of course, some people numb themselves, they jump into the next relationship, they never process what happened, and all they're doing is just replaying the same dynamic. If you really want to break the pattern, remember that you're doing this for the long run. It's like you don't just want to move on from that toxic relationship now to feel better now. You want to move on to break the pattern, and so that you get to attract a better relationship. And if you're someone who wants to have a family and a long-term relationship, it's like you're doing the work now for the rest of your life, as in like to benefit for the rest of your life for this. So give yourself time to move through it. Let's not rush things that we want to last forever. So what's going to happen is that you're going to maybe take like 2-3 steps forward and then 1 step back, and another 2 steps forwards, 3 steps forward, 10 steps forwards, and 1 step back. So you'll be like, oh, I'm better, and then I'm back, and I'm crying, and I miss that. And again, you're getting better, and again, being pulled back. So just give yourself the time to do it. Like be gentle with yourself. Once again, if you're pushing yourself to move through this process faster, what you're doing is you're discrediting the emotions of your inner child, which is exactly the reason why you got into the toxic relationship in the first place. Okay? So remember, it's fine that it's taking time. This is about your whole life. It's about the rest of your life, not just about today. So honor this and give yourself everything you need. So my loves, this is, wow, we did 1 hour. This is everything I wanted to share regarding toxic relationships. Again, I've gone through this, absolutely shocked that how could I get into this? Lots of my friends did, but there's just so many lessons from that. We get to emerge like new, renewed, and amazing in all of this. So look, if you've been in a toxic relationship, please know that in no way do you have to repeat the pattern. Totally, you can look at it, change it, and actually enjoy a healthy relationship. And even if you've never been in a healthy relationship, even if you have not experienced healthy love, you can. There's nothing that stops you. Like, we have ability to feel this, everyone, because our heart chakra is this love. So you have this. And if we look at these things, if we do the personal growth work, we open ourselves to experience that. And if you're currently in a toxic relationship, I hope that this video has been helpful for you to notice those dynamics and help you make a decision to choose yourself. And if you got out of a toxic relationship, I also hope that this video, offered you some tips on how to move on so that you can let that person out of your life and then move on to a healthier relationship. And love, if you would like my assistance in this process, I offer coaching for singles and couples and all types of relationships. So if you would like my personal assistance, if you would like to work with me one-on-one and be guided through these processes of changing those patterns, of moving on from a toxic relationship, you can find a link in the description of this video where you can book a free discovery call with me. So it's about half an hour, it's for free, and we talk in what way I could assist you. Now, I do ask you that, you come if you feel like, okay, I'm really committed to do this. Louise asked before, is it possible to turn a toxic relationship into a healthy one? And it requires for both people to be super committed. I'm done with the old story. I'm ready to change this. So if you have this commitment that you're done with the old story, right, that you're ready to change this, then I would absolutely be honored to assist you and guide you through this process so that you can change the story of your intimate life and actually attract a beautiful partner, a healthy relationship, passionate, loving, and healthy. Like, you don't need toxicity. You don't need abuse to feel loved. So once again, there's a link in the description of this video. Go ahead and book the session, and I'd love to speak to you. And Dev is asking, when is the next session? Well, I'll do my best to be live every Saturday at the same time. I didn't do a live session last week because I was traveling. I was in London. But as much as I can, I really love sharing these things with you guys. And I really appreciate you being here, watching it live, commenting, or watching the replay. So thank you so much for being here, guys. Truly appreciate it. And yes, so we should see each other again next weekend with more awesome content. I love you guys. Have a beautiful day. Mwah.